Today we're diving deep into the darkness with 10 movies that are intense, violent, uncompromising, unlawful. Well, not unlawful, these movies are perfectly legal. I only said that because of Unlawful Entry, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that are now streaming for free on Tubi. But here's the catch, no matter how wild these picks get, they are all genuinely entertaining to watch. So my name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started.
You can save them.
The Collector from 2009. Desperate to help his wife, an ex-con plots a heist at his new employer's country home, unaware that a second criminal has also targeted the property and rigged it with a series of deadly traps. That's gotta be the world's worst luck, that you decide to burglarize a house and find that someone else has already broken into it. I mean, that's even worse than breaking into Kevin McAllister's house. And speaking of Home Alone, a horror Home Alone movie is kind of a good comparison for this. The Collector is a horrifying, sinister character who wears this incredibly creepy mask, like I can't even believe how creepy he looks on screen, whose goal is to collect people, but he tortures them in this crazy toying kind of way by setting up elaborate Home Alone style traps. It's a Saw type movie that came out in the wake of the popularity of the Saw franchise, but it's a little bit more my speed because the whole movie isn't about kidnapped people being held captive and torturing slowly. That's the kind of thing that I really struggle with. I actually used to think that I was a little bit more of a sensitive horror viewer in terms of extreme horror, but I've realized that's not necessarily true. It's really just the subject matter of kidnapping someone, holding them hostage, slowly torturing them. I kind of can't handle that kind of thing. That's not what The Collector is. It's a little bit more slasher-like, and it's gross, gory, intense fun, especially if you watch it with a group of people, which I actually did recently, and we just had a blast, like, the insane things that are happening to these characters. My favorite has got to be the guy that falls onto a huge assortment of bear traps. That scene was crazy, and there's so much crazy stuff like this in here. The Collector is 2000s horror insanity. A little dumb, a lot over the top, but kind of a blast. And if you want to avoid having to watch quite so many ads that you'll have to on Tubi, it's also available places like Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Hoopla, and Screenbox. At the end of all of my videos, I list all the places you'll be able to stream them, so check that out at the end for more streaming options.
Stay here and lock the door. Do it!
She's all alone, Mikey.
Turn, Michael!
Unlawful Entry from 1992. This is a 90s thriller with such a cool premise. It's about this couple whose house is broken into, and when they call the cops, they end up befriending a seemingly nice police officer, but it turns out he becomes instantly obsessed with the wife and will do anything to get her. This is one that my dad really loves, and growing up, he always told me about it a lot. And when we were finally able to get a copy of it, we watched it, and yeah, I had a great time, and I also had a great time rewatching it just over this past week. This is a really fun, super intense thriller. I love 90s thrillers like this. This was such a good time for the genre, and an unhinged Ray Liotta is one of the best things that you can put into one of these movies. Overall, the cast is great. I mean, you've got Kurt Russell in the lead, but Ray Liotta is just his peak craziness. I mean, the best unhinged Liotta is definitely in Goodfellas. One where I think he takes it a little bit too far is in Turbulence, but this is a really nice sweet spot here. It's crazy, it's over the top, but it's believable still. Now, the wife character that he gets so obsessed with might be a little underserved. She's played by Madeline Stowe, who I think does the best she can, but she is a little bit of a plot device being played with by the two rival men. She's actually better served here than she is in Tony Scott's Revenge, which I think actually does the same thing worse, although that's also on Tubi and you can check it out. But it's just really fun and heart-pounding to see the lengths that Ray Liotta's character will go to, how he's able to use what police officer political power he has in order to absolutely destroy Kurt Russell's life. It's nuts. I actually wish this movie went on like 10 minutes longer for a little bit more to wrap up, but as it is, this is a really cool movie.
Somebody's here.
Because I believe you all want this killer to be brought to justice at once.
Torso from 1973. A masked serial killer with psychosexual issues strangles female co-eds with scarves before dismembering them. So I knew on this list I wanted to include a really messed up giallo, and the craziest, most disturbing giallo films I can think of are The New York Ripper and Torso. And New York Ripper is not on Tubi, unfortunately. But Torso is, and it is such a good movie. Now, when talking about it as a giallo, it very much comes out in that time period. It fits into that genre, but it feels more like an 80s slasher than these usually do. The killer has such a great look, such a creepy mask, and you don't just see his black glove hands going to kill people like in a lot of giallos. You see him full on, and they almost feel like Jason Voorhees type sequences. I mean, the one where he kills a woman outside in the rain is crazy. It's beautifully well done. This movie's so well directed by Sergio Martino, but it's also very sick and disturbing. Though the characters can be a little bit shallow, I actually think they work quite well, especially since the lead is played by Susie Kendall, who is an actress from this time period that I tend to really enjoy. She does a great job here, particularly in the third act, that just turns into this one-on-one cat and mouse sequence that ratchets up the tension like crazy. I love giallos, but they rarely get quite as intense as Torso.
Billy! Billy, what have you done?
Black Christmas from 2006. On Christmas Eve, an escaped maniac returns to his childhood home, which is now a sorority house, and begins to murder the sorority sisters one by one. I'm posting this in mid-November, so I think it's acceptable to start getting some Christmas horror movies in here. Now, this movie is also often called Black Xmas, and it's the one true remake of the original 70s classic Black Christmas. The one that came out in the 2010s is really just that in name only. It has nothing to do with the story. This one very much does, but I think it's a remake that really justifies its existence because it's not as good as the original, but it makes up for it on being way more bonkers insane. And I think that's actually a good remake strategy. If you can just kind of do the same thing, but just kick it up a notch, don't let it be just a watered down version of something way better, that can be really good. And while for many years this was known as being a horrible movie, I think the tide is really turning on it, and I am personally a big fan of it. Like, I really do like the cast. It's a good cast for people who are nostalgic for the 2000s. So it's got people like Michelle Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Lacey Chabert, Katie Cassidy. They mostly represent our standard sorority girls in a slasher movie, but for a movie like that, you've got to have crazy kills, and this movie really does. Like, it's so trashy. I almost can't believe how far it goes. But my favorite kill by far is when an icicle kills someone. And I did not say somebody murders somebody with an icicle. I said an icicle kills someone. And while very little was known about the killer in the original film, here we get much more about his backstory, and it's really disturbing. Again, I kind of can't believe how far this movie takes things. It's trashy, it's insane, but it's one of those Christmas horror films I really love. Tubi also recently added Terrifier 3, I noticed, so for another incredibly violent Christmas horror movie, you can check that out. I just didn't actually put it on the list because I think everybody knows Terrifier 3.
Vice Squad.
Vice Squad from 1982. An unlikely Hollywood prostitute helps a detective set a trap for a mutilator pimp. This is an exploitation crime thriller that is so dark, so profane, and just downright nasty, and yet is always a blast to watch. It's like 70s nihilism filtered through 80s popcorn entertainment, but I think it works so well. It's so intense. It is so gritty, much because of Wings Hauser as the villain. I've talked a lot on this channel about how much I love Wings Hauser as an actor. One of my favorite cult actors. He's always fun to watch. This is his best performance. I might venture to say he's like one of my favorite movie villains. He is so charming, charismatic, but shockingly sadistic. Like, he is such an absolute monster. And then you've got Gary Swanson as the detective on his trail. And what's interesting about him is even though he is like our good guy, he's the moral center, he knows that it's not his movie, so he is just a standard goody two-shoes, straight-laced cop. He doesn't really stand out, so he can let Wings Hauser and Season Hubley really shine. She's the prostitute who ends up helping, and she's like really our protagonist more so, I would say, and she's really great, a very complex character. It also just looks great. It's got a wonderful time and place to it, taking place in early 80s gritty LA. It's a nice time capsule for that, all taking place over one insane night where a monster has got to get taken down. I love Vice Squad.
What is happening?
I don't see anyone.
You're Next, from 2011. When the Davidson family comes under attack by home invaders during a wedding anniversary getaway, the killers learn that one of their victims in particular can really fight back. I will always have a special place in my heart for You're Next. It was a big deal for me when it came out because it was really my gateway into my era of indie horror. This was the movie that opened me up to people like Adam Wingard, Simon Barrett, Ty West, Joe Swanberg, AJ Bowen, all these guys that made so many great indie horror films in the 2010s, and I loved keeping up with that run. And You're Next, it was the movie that brought that to me. It was also the movie that kicked off Barbara Crampton's second wave of her career. She's in this, and it was her comeback. But the movie is so much fun. It's almost a little bit of a comedy at times. It's got some good laughs between the characters, good character interactions that'll keep you guessing throughout it. But it all leads to a crazy violent third act with an infamous twist on the formula that is the most satisfying thing about the movie. So it's always a good time. I like watching the characters interact, and then the killers come in, they're scary, they've got those cool animal masks, but it is wildly satisfying by the end. Shout out Sharni Vincent as the true final girl here. She is fantastic. I will always love You're Next.
Hate is the word, Benny. Hate the man who tries to beat you. Kill him, Benny, kill him!
The Big Combo, from 1955. Police Lieutenant Diamond, pause, let's all acknowledge the fact that his name is Lieutenant Diamond. That is one cool hard-boiled noir detective. Vies to bring a clever, well-connected, and sadistic gangster to justice, all the while obsessing over the gangster's girlfriend. So it's November right now. A lot of people are celebrating Noir-vember, so I wanted to get a classic noir film on this list. And people might think that's weird because an old black and white film is not going to be particularly violent or crazy boundary pushing for our sensibilities today. But I just firmly believe that it's valuable to put your head back in the past sometimes and appreciate old movies for the boundaries they pushed in their time. These days, most anything goes in movies, unless you're a 4-quadrant blockbuster, of course. Then you've got a lot of rules, but the lower the budget, you can kind of do anything these days. But there were a lot of rules in 1955, a lot of boundaries that could be pushed, and I think The Big Combo pushes quite a bit of them. It is a really dark, intense, hard-boiled crime story about the almost impossibility of a cop on a crazy mission trying to bring down a gangster that seems impossible to touch. It is about his obsession for justice to bring this guy down, but yes, also his obsession with the gangster's girlfriend. Colonel Wilde plays our lead cop. He's the lead in a lot of film noir movies. He's great here, but I really loved Richard Conte as the gangster, whose name is actually Mr. Brown. It's kind of funny to have such an intimidating villain and his name is Mr. Brown, but he's such like a hyper alpha male stereotype in the worst way. So he's got all of these speeches on his philosophy, and he's a horrible guy. You want to bring him down so bad. And I gotta shout out this torture scene where our lead character is tortured by the bad guys with really loud music, in particular, crazy drums.
You like crazy drums, Lieutenant?
I don't think I've seen that very often, but if you're in the mood for a classic noir, I think The Big Combo is a really good one, and it might just be darker than you're expecting.
Get down! Are you okay? Where is he? Don't you do it!
Running Scared, from 2006. A low-ranking criminal is entrusted by his boss to dispose of a gun that killed corrupt cops, but things spiral out of control when the gun ends up in the wrong hands. This is one I've talked about before, but when I'm looking at movies on Tubi that will give you a particularly intense and violent, crazy experience, I mean, Running Scared is that movie. It might just be very different than you expect, though, in particular because it's starring Paul Walker. May he rest in peace, we lost him way too soon, but he's so well known for the Fast and Furious movies, just fun popcorn action flicks, that you might not know that he is in a brutally intense, sadistically violent crime thriller that's one of the craziest ones I've ever seen. And he's great in it. This is the most intense performance I've ever seen from him by far, where he just descends into the filthy depths of society. In a lot of ways, it really feels like an updated Vice Squad. I think they'd make a great double feature. But even though Paul Walker's story is great, it's Vera Farmiga's story that is the scariest. She plays his wife. It's really cool to see her in a film like this, now associating her so much with being the prim and proper mom of ghost hunting in the Conjuring movies. But she has this story where she's trying to help out this kid and ends up in this couple's apartment. And the horrors that she finds in that apartment are so shocking. Like, legitimately, I think her story almost brings this movie away from crime thriller and into horror. It is legit so scary. This film is for a specific mood. If you want to have a brutally intense movie night spiraling out of control, where you almost feel like your heart is bumping out of your chest, this movie is going to be for you. If you want to have a little bit more of a chill time, please stay away. Hard Boiled from 1992. A cop who loses his partner in a shootout with smugglers goes on a mission to catch them. In order to get closer to the leaders of the ring, he joins forces with an undercover cop who's working as a gangster hitman. This is one of the greatest, one of the most classic Hong Kong action films ever made. It's one I really wanted to bring attention to, not just for the fact that it's amazing, but also for the fact that it's actually here on Tubi. For a long time, this movie was not available on streaming, and I was only able to watch it because I've had this old DVD for many years, but for a long time it was tough to get on physical media. You couldn't stream it. Now it just got released on 4K by Shout Factory, and it's free on Tubi. That is so awesome. This is a crazy, tense, and violent, highly stylistic action movie that's actually directed by John Woo. Now you could point out that it's somewhat of a cliched cop story. Chow Yun-fat plays our cop, and he chews on toothpicks. He gets mad at his captain for telling him that he goes too far in the field. It's all that classic stuff, but John Woo was actually at this time being criticized for glorifying gangsters too much with movies like The Killer and A Better Tomorrow, both of which are also streaming on Tubi and are also great. So here he was trying to glorify cops, and he makes them so cool, both with Chow Yun-fat and Tony Leung. They might be my two favorite Hong Kong actors. So awesome. And the action scenes are just amazing. Shootouts are just so much better in John Woo movies than other movies. Sometimes I find that a shootout can be one of the least visually interesting action scenes you can do. Not with John Woo. There is so much destruction, bullets exploding, guys flying through the air. It's so crazy, and all leads to a third act showdown in a hospital where Chow Yun-fat has got to save a baby. That is absolutely spectacular. One of the best third acts this genre has to offer.
Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive.
Bone Tomahawk from 2015. When a group of frontier townsfolk set out to rescue captives from a tribe of cave-dwelling cannibals, their mission descends into a brutal fight for survival. This is a Western, and in addition to things like murder mysteries and noir films, I think Westerns are a really good kind of movie to watch in November. It just feels right. But this is an incredibly sadistic horror Western, and it's so good. It's the movie that really put director S. Craig Zahler on the map. He does an amazing job here with this incredible cast, led by Kurt Russell. This is the second Kurt Russell movie we've got on this list, with great supporting performances from people like Patrick Wilson, Richard Jenkins, Matthew Fox, David Arquette. Such a great group of dudes in here as these guys who have to go on a mission into the world of troglodytes, cannibals living out in the caves. And when they get there, it is deeply disturbing to me when we see these people, how they live, the things they do. There's a certain really iconic Terrifier kill that's done in the Terrifier movies that was done first in Bone Tomahawk, and I think is even more disturbing here. But even before we get to that, just leading up to it, these guys on a journey, it's great just seeing these actors interact, the actually really good dialogue, the character interactions. It's a special thing when you find a film This is just a really good, really well-made film that also functions as a really disturbing hardcore horror movie. That's a wonderful thing. Bone Tomahawk is one of my favorite horror westerns, one of my favorite movies under this particular theme. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and if anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to send out a special shout out to Christopher Casey, Chris Rivers, and 30 Winks. You guys are the absolute best. If you want to check these out for yourself, I do have streaming options right here. Yes, they're all in Tubi in the US, but there's some other options there as well as some international options. What are some other intense movies you want to recommend? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can click the video on the screen. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today, have some fun, and I will see you next time.